Good afternoon, everyone. I'm really excited to welcome you to this expert speak. Today, we're speaking with Vineet Rao, who's the founder and CEO of DealShare. This is a very exciting discussion because I think I'm also going to learn a lot from him. Now, DealShare was founded in September 2018, very recently, by Vineet Rao and his co-founders. DealShare is focused on bringing an online shopping experience to first-time internet users in India's hinterland. DealShare turned a unicorn after a recent 165 million US dollar funding from Tiger and Alpha Wave. Vineet, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you so much, Adil. It's really a pleasure to be here.
So, Vineet, obviously a lot we can learn from your experiences. Let's start with the DealShare journey. Talk us through the DealShare journey to today.
Absolutely. So, a little bit about myself. So, after graduating from IIT Bombay, I spent a number of years in US and Microsoft. And before that, also, I was doing a startup and I came back to India a few years back. It was actually one of the main reasons I also came back was I was so much inspired by you all, right? All the entrepreneurs who have stayed back over here in India and created really beautiful products, right? Two of my friends, very very close friends that we used to live together. One runs Car Deco, one runs Bluestone. So I think that probably was a big inspiration. I think a lot of people will also come back and join this journey in India. But coming over here, I also realized that India was still in the first wave of the startup ecosystem building, where majority of the products that we had launched were inspired a lot by more evolved markets, like US and Europe, and some also from China. But not a lot of entrepreneurs were really solving, the real Indian, problems. India is at a very different stage of evolution as well. Our per capita income is a lot lower, our density is a lot higher, our population is a lot higher. So what we really decided is to really stay away from all the Western inspired models and just go with an open mind, go back to Jaipur while my family was here in Bangalore. Both me and my co-founders shifted back to Jaipur and started exploring in terms of what can be done. And DealShare was a very natural evolution. We started building network on WhatsApp. We started selling. One of my co-founders has very deep experience on the retail side, and we got a lot of traction. And what products to sell and how to sell came as a natural sort of bottoms up, first principles based evolution, right? So that is what happened for the first few months, and then we released our app. The app was very simple, again, very different from all the Western influenced app. It was a very feeds based app. We did not carry a lot of selection. Our model was always demand aggregating rather than having a large selection. When we released our app, we had only 25 products, 25 deals at a given time. In fact, when we started, we used to sell only 3 deals for a whole week, and we used to aggregate demand so that we could provide the best service, best price, as well as do a highly efficient logistics, right? But we released our app. We had only 12, 25 highly relevant products that we used to go very deep in sourcing and generate disproportionate amount of orders. In fact, even on such a small assortment, in December of 2018 itself, 3 months from launch, we had reached a scale of 2-3 thousand orders a day just in the city of Jaipur, and that was more orders than any other e-commerce company in the city. So I think we had a very strong proof point that you don't really need to follow a Western model. You can scale really fast, and we had hardly spent any money. We had not even spent 50 lakhs till then, right? So whereas there was all these other grocery players who had spent 500 million US dollars and still were doing only 1,000 orders a day, right, in that city. So post that, we really went in the market and raised our seed round with the Falcon Edge Capital and Matrix Partners. We were very fortunate to have such high quality investors back us so early in the game. But they also saw that this is like clearly an untapped potential. With such small amount of money, we scaled in a city so fast. that everybody was really interested to see, how this really pans out. I think for the next 8 9 months, that is almost for the first year, we were just in the city of Jaipur, and we were keeping on incubating and iterating in terms of how do we build margins, how do we build a very low cost operations model. We did try to partner with many national level logistics players, but it was just not coming at a price point, because again the logistics that was built by all these players was really to solve for the elite and premium scenario, right? Majority of the e-commerce has been really selling electronics and mobile phones, right? It's a very different logistics that you need to build for that scenario as compared to the mass market grocery scenario. Like, our average order value is only 500 rupees, and it is almost like 5 7 kgs. So if you have to deliver 5 7 kgs and you have only 500 rupees, and if you have to really make it profitable, you have to make sure that all of your logistics is within 10%. So how do you do warehousing, deliveries, everything, within 50 rupees, right? So that is where we also put a lot of attention in the first year and created this network of community leaders. We call them DealShare those. And today, all of our deliveries, in fact, all of the smaller towns, we are in 130 cities and towns. There are only about 20 cities where we have our own deep presence with our team and warehouses. All the other smaller towns are completely community leader based. So, जैसे जयपुर के आसपास, we deliver, in Dosa, Bandikui, Tonk, all the smaller towns, and we have a business partner. We call them DealShare those, and we just ship all the orders in bulk to them, and they segregate and deliver. And that works at phenomenally low cost and provides a very high degree of customer experience, because the community leader is actually from the same locality. They also understand all the nuances of the customer requirements. Again, India, we realize, is a very diverse country, right? Every city, or even within the city, now we live in Bangalore, and if you look at Kormangla and Indranagar, it's very different than when you go to Banashankari or Malleshwaram. It's very different. Like you'll find 10 different cultures in Bangalore itself. So how can you be an organized player and provide a similar kind of service where the expectation of service is itself very different? So our community leader model really enables that, to create a platform which is decentralized yet provides the same level of guarantees that the user expects. uh, 2019, end of 2019 onwards, we started scaling, right? We opened up Mumbai, we opened up Ahmedabad. Unfortunately, right, we were doing really well, till March 2020 is when COVID came in, right? So we were growing really, really fast. We already had done another round, and there was already discussions of doing a massive round at that time. But I think COVID overall has been, while it was really, really painful for the first month of April, but I think we also enjoyed a lot. So we went back to the city of Jaipur, and we worked with the government. We got a lot of help and support from the government. And we were the first ones to get permissions to have our staff work, and have our delivery services resumed. We were only shut down only for a day, and then we resumed again and started delivering to all the at least the major cities. And we had to rethink the business also, because we did not know how long the pandemic would last and how long our capital in the bank would last. So we went very, very conservative on spending money. We almost reduced our burn by 50 60%, and took a very conservative approach, at least for the first few months. But it was really good that the market started opening up, soon, and we did another round at end of 2020, and then started growing again. 2021 was really good for us. We grew almost 15 times in the year, from the time we really started and the time we really ended. So yeah, that is a long answer to our journey, but happy to answer questions on that.
Yeah, yeah. So, from what you said, what I got right is that there are certain elements which are unique, which is why the market and your investors see you as a pioneer, even though other people have done this type of business. There's something pioneering which is creating a disruption. From what you spoke, I understood that your unique supply chain, you're able to deliver in a lot of areas. You're able to deliver at a cost point, at a quality level, which makes you different. the product selection you have. So you're not working with the usual MNC brands, but you've given a selection at a price point, quality point, which your consumers are lapping up. And third, right, your product is created for the hinterland versus, let's say, a global MNC experience other apps might offer. Now, as a insider, right, is there something I'm missing in terms of a difference or a pioneering strategy you're taking?
No, so you have beautifully captured it. We did not, while many other startups really brought innovative products to India
Hmm,
and were trying to create new demand, the demand
hmm,
that was not existing before.
hmm,
We all did not know, right, that we could just take a cab by ordering it from phone, or we could order food at home and so on, right? So
hmm,
uh, we did not really go after creating new demand. We really
hmm,
went where the demand was already there, and
hmm,
exactly the shape of the demand also.
hmm,
So if 80, so it's not like we don't sell national or international level brands, right? People can
hmm,
buy Ashirwad Atta also. But if
hmm,
85% market share is with local brands, so we also
hmm,
sell 85% local brands and
hmm,
direct from factory products, right? Now, obviously, there will be a lot more work that we'll do, continue to do in terms of getting even better, higher quality, direct from factory products. But I think from the demand side, we just try to build a digital model where we can connect, supply and demand together, and drive operational efficiencies, right? The only other thing is the our gamification and demand aggregation led model.
hmm.
So our
Got it.
app, it is not just that it is localized and it's available in all the languages, and it is
Hmm,
extremely simple, one click checkout. There's no
hmm,
concept of all kinds of discounts and cart coupons, and it's just very confusing, right, for the mass market audience. So we have kept it really simple, but on top of that we have applied a lot of gamification tactics. So there are flash sales, deal of the hour, you can bargain with the system, you can bring more traffic, and the price of a product will keep going down. There are just lots and lots of these gamification that we really use to drive engagement. So we really, from a consumer experience perspective, our focus of the team is a lot more on driving engagement rather than the traditional sort of thinking of e-commerce in terms of driving conversions and other things, right? And that is the reason our monthly active user also comes to app almost 20-30 times a month. It is very unusual for an e-commerce app to have that kind of engagement, right? So it is really the gamification and the social nature of the app, and majority of our traffic is free, and that is actually the reason why the traffic is free, right? We hardly spend any money on marketing, and right now we get almost more than a million and a half sessions a day, and most of them are like we are not paying anybody for getting those sessions.
Right, right. So let's talk about this, right? So your revenue, as I understand, has grown 13 times in the last year. Now that is phenomenal sales growth, and we're talking about value of business created, in that 1 billion, 7,000 crore range. Now, how does this happen, right? Is it just that people want this and you're bringing supply? Just talk us through. You're talking about the fact that your business is organic. You open in a city, you've opened up West Bengal, things are scaling by themselves. Just talk us through what you have done, right, that spurred this kind of revenue growth.
uh, Again, I think the two main so any retail, right, you whether you look at the history of retail 200-300 years back, right, when the modern retail really started, 100 years back, and then Walmart really came in, and Walmart really became really massive because before Walmart, the modern retail, the large format retail stores were only available in the large cities in US. All the smaller cities and towns were still operated by mom and pop stores, right? I think India is also a similar situation where both e-commerce and modern retail is only limited to a few metro cities, right? Beyond that, I mean, Jaipur is the 10th largest city, and still the penetration is extremely low. In fact, it is the city is the same. When we go there and talk to all our friends and relatives and everybody, it's the same what it was 30 years back when we grew up. So I think so ultimately we are bringing the concepts of organized retail to the mass market population. Now, when Walmart really did this in smaller towns and cities of US, uh, it had to really also shape itself differently as compared to all the other retail giants like Fred Meyers or Safeway or HEB, or there are like dozens of these grocery players in the cities, right? But Walmart, when it went to smaller towns, it had to think very differently on the assortment, bring a much lower price point assortment, and run its operations a lot more efficiently. So I think conceptually that is what we are doing. We are bringing a lot lower price point assortment, which really works for the mass market population, and running our operations at half the cost of anybody else. And we have
Got it.
really cracked the model for doing that.
Got it. So my takeaway, right, is that demand is organically there. So you go in, you make sure your product is great, you make sure your selection is great, your supply chain works like magic, and the demand is just sparking, and you're seeing
Yes.
this 10x. It's not like you're spending a ton of cash in terms of building anything, in terms of advertising. It's just happening organically. Quite incredible. So let's talk about building for Bharat right now. You've spoken about product selection. You've spoken about supply chain logistics, quality, and cost. Now, talk us through product, right? You built a product that, like you pointed out, is scaling 10x organically, right? Without spending a ton of marketing or cashback offers. When you build a product for Bharat, is it different or is it similar to what you build for Delhi and Mumbai?
No, the product has to be very different, and I think uh, we still don't know what that product looks like, right? I mean, maybe 5 years, 10 years from now, when the whole ecosystem is really mature and we have hundreds of public profitable companies in India who have lots and lots of built lots of different products, right? We'll exactly know what is that kind of experience that really works. Even if you look at China, right, the Chinese apps would be very, very different in terms of the experience they provide as compared to, let's say, Western apps, right? Because over the years, they've really tuned to the culture of the country. And I think building for Bharat is going to be even more challenging as compared to, let's say, building for China, because China is still a very homogeneous country with the same language and more or less same culture. But India, every state is very different with different language and culture. So if you're building for Bharat and you're building an experience that caters to the entire country, you have to really think about how you will be solving for that diversity and how you will provide a unique experience that whether somebody's in Calcutta or whether somebody is in Mysore or somebody is in Rajasthan can really feel that this product is really built for them and it is not forced on them. So a lot of innovations are required on the UI UX side for building the right product for Bharat, right? And it's different for different domains. It's not like what works for commerce, what is working for us could work for another sector and so on, right? Will work exactly the same for education or healthcare or so on and so forth.
Right, right. Okay, so let me press you on two specific questions, right? So when people talk about Bharat, they talk about a vernacular experience. How important is that vernacular experience versus an English experience? Secondly, right, you have mentioned this social or WhatsApp angle, saying that you open in West Bengal, people find you're open because of social and WhatsApp tools. On both of these, right, share some learnings with us.
Yes, so I think vernacular experience is extremely important. I mean, how many people really uh, know how to read and write English? I don't know, maybe 10-15% max in India. 80
Mm,
85% do not really understand English, right? So if all
mm,
your experience is only based on English,
mm,
your potential ultimately will be limited to 10%. It's still a big potential. So I'll not say that the startups really focused on that do not
mm.
have a big market. It's still a huge market. But if you really want to go for the entire market, I think vernacular experience will be extremely important. And I don't think it is just the vernacular experience. You have to, along with that, you have to build the vernacular culture. It cannot be that you've built an app in English and you just Google translated it into all the languages, which also a lot of people are doing. That just does not, really work. You have to really think about how, if somebody in Gujarat is really using the app, then they actually feel that it is only built for Gujarati people. So the whole cultural aspects also have to be looked into, how the communication is, how the language is, how how people really talk in Gujarat is how your app should really be communicating to them, right? So I think both the vernacular or the local language and the local culture is extremely important if you're building for Bharat. And what was your other question? Sorry.
So the other question was on social customer acquisition. So you
Yes.
mentioned the innovative work on WhatsApp.
Yes, yes. So when we started this, and this was not very surprising, but we had talked to lots and lots of people, and we also traveled to smaller towns and cities in Rajasthan, and we used to look at people's phone, and we used to ask them, "What do you do?" Yeah, right. I mean, everybody had by then got a smartphone, and like 90% of the scenario was really just doing WhatsApp or watching, YouTube or TikTok videos, right? That was the like most of the time was really being spent, or games, right? People were playing games. So these are the three things that has really massively sort of been the reason why the smartphone penetration has also increased so much. And obviously sort of geo coming in and the data rates going really low, so that was on one side, that it became affordable, and the other side, the scenarios were really this social games and content, right, which really made it massively sort of viral and popular. I think for any sector, any product, any startup that really wants to build for Bharat needs to really have these as a very core part of their strategy, because that is what people know. For them, digital is WhatsApp, right? And if WhatsApp or social is not really part of your strategy, also gamification and content is also not part of your strategy, it's going to be very hard to crack Bharat. Then you are actually asking people to completely learn something that they don't know about. But if you make it very seamless and blend, it should seem like just an extension, that you're already doing this, now why don't you do this also, which is very similar in nature to what you were already doing. So I think social is going to play a very important role in the success of all the startups which are really catering for Bharat.
Got it, got it. And Vineet, you're now opening up cities, right? And when you go into a state, you've said that sometimes you have a great experience. It's like something just takes off. Other times, right, it takes more time. Now, what is the big delta where one time it just takes off and one time it's taking time?
I think the biggest thing is if we've not really cracked into the right kind of local supplies.
Hmm.
So now all the national level products, we have very good relationships with all the brands, so we get good prices from them. But the local supplies and building the local network is very tricky. And uh, and uh, let me also tell you, in Rajasthan also it was extremely difficult for us to actually build partnerships with all the local manufacturers. They actually did not really want to work with us. They don't want to work with any of the modern trade or e-commerce players. Whenever they've worked with any of the modern trade or e-commerce players, they've just burnt their hands, because none of the modern trade and e-commerce players have uh, really focused on them. They've already always used them as initial sort of getting into the city point, and then they all go and sell all the national level products, right? So I think it was tough for us to really convince them that we are only focused on you, and we want to make your brand really big. And we have to do that in every region, in every state that we go in, and sometimes it takes more time, sometimes we get more resistance, sometimes we have to prove to them that we can really do it and we are trustworthy. And that is the reason why it takes a lot more time in some places as compared to other places. The other thing is also setting up operations. We do all of our operations ourselves. So every state we go in, we take a very large warehouse facility, 1.5 lakh square feet, and then we set up lots of smaller sort of warehouses, 5 to 10,000 square feet, right? Generally, we are asset light. We don't have to spend millions of dollars in setting up all the warehouses, because again, we are catering to the mass market. So even the warehouses we run with a lot less capital and lot less assets as compared to other warehouses. But really setting up that operational network and getting them to work efficiently and being able to process those many number of orders also takes time. Some states have done really well scaling from 0 to 10,000 orders a day, but other states have taken time operationally to scale up, even though the demand was there.
Got it, got it. So I think again, my takeaway is supply is a big thing. You know, if you have a good product and if you put out the right supply, it appears that that itself is driving your growth. That's really cool. So let's move to the last topic now. So you know, you've turned a unicorn with the last fundraise, and Shark Tank is in the news for everyone. Now, tell us some of your best practices that's helped you achieve this level of fundraising success.
Uh, and I'll be particularly talking about our journey, right? We never built a model that was basically chasing capital. So one of the other things that I also see is people really keep on waiting and try to present lots of things. It's always good to get validation, but ultimately execution is also key. When you go really deep and you look at lots and lots of problems that still need to be solved, and then you marry up your passion versus the market opportunity, and then just keep going ahead and solving the problems. I think capital raise, while you have to put a lot of efforts, but it should come more naturally. So I think my advice is also to really ensure that you are focused on the problem that you're solving, and don't give up too easily. I also see a lot of founders who keep on pivoting, even though their initial vision, at least to me, looked really solid and really strong and something that was a big problem. But as soon as they hit a first roadblock, they would sit down with their investors, just completely pivot their business. And I'm pretty sure you also know lots of startups who've done that. See, if you keep doing that, I'm not really sure if you can really build a massively successful scalable business. I don't know of many successful startups or successful companies which used to be a startup. You can think about Google or Facebook or even Microsoft or Apple. Don't you think that they would have faced difficulties in their journey? Of course they would have faced difficulties, but I think they just kept on going, solving the problem that they were passionate about. So I think that would be the other thing. Just first of all, ensure that the problem you're solving is right. I also see a lot of startups who are really passionate about the problem, but the problem really is not very relevant or doesn't have much market. So I think relevance and the market should be validated quickly, and then you have to keep working hard. Sometimes it may take few months, sometimes it may take few years, but I'm pretty sure that you'll be able to solve, and then funds will be pouring. Once you have really solved the problem, right? Uh,
Right.
and the investment, from the investor standpoint, also I'm seeing a huge difference now. What it used to be 5-10 years back, when you really had to tell that what exactly you're building and where it has been successful. These days they really are looking for like Bharat focused problems. So if you're focused on Bharat, I think you have a higher chance of succeeding rather than copying a Western model.
Okay, very interesting. So the question on fundraise then is you built up a class cap table, right? So you mentioned Alpha Wave, you mentioned Matrix, you also have Tiger, Cora, Dragoneer, and you know your valuation has scaled 3.5x, right, since the last fundraise. So my questions are: how did you go about building this kind of cap table? And two, right, what metrics are driving this kind of incredible valuation growth?
Fantastic. So it's very interesting. The whole culture in our company is also very social, right? So I brought in my own friends, to really convince them that this is what we must be doing and start with me. And then I went to Jaipur and I tapped into my network, and Meda also tapped into his because he also grew up over there. And we kept on sort of building, right? I mean, then we took a small amount of money from friends and family only, and they brought in their network and introduced us to investors who got really excited, and our original investors then brought in the new investors, right? So most of the fundraise for us has been not in the traditional way, like doing the roadshow or pitching it to lots of people and bringing them in. Most of it has been based on our own network or our own investors, smaller angels bringing in the next one bringing in the next one, and so on. So that has worked also really well for us. In fact, Falcon Edge being part of our early journey has helped us a lot, right? Because they have a very powerful network, and they've brought in lots and lots of investors to come back us. As far as the valuations, I think it is really. I don't think there is any science to it in terms of exactly. You'd see different companies with different revenues and different unit economics valued very differently. I think it is really about your comfort level at the end of the day, in terms of how much dilution you are willing to take and how much capital, minimum capital you really want to raise. And you have to basically stop there, right? Uh, Again, my suggestion is don't be too greedy. You know, don't just keep hunting for higher and higher sort of valuation, because if you are too overvalued, also that would definitely come bite you. So I think that is the other thing we also try to ensure, that we also feel that we are reasonably valued and not really going for too much overvaluation. We've seen companies which had revenues one fifth of ours, and unit economics, EBITDA much worse than ours, valued more than us in the sector. All of the e-commerce companies, in fact, were valued more than us when they became unicorn, and their revenues and their unit economics were far worse than us, right? So that has also helped us, because then we can keep on growing our valuation while others will take a hit at some point or the other on their valuations.
Right, right. So for me, the interesting point you raised, right, is that all the new investors have actually been brought by the success or the a good relationship with the existing investors. So literally, every round has been the existing investors pulling someone in, and it's the first time I've heard that being articulated so clearly. Is that a fair understanding?
Oh, absolutely. So our angels really helped us connect. In fact, Navros from Falcon Edge really came invested into us in our angel round through Angel List. So then he was really excited, and then Matrix also, we had been talking for quite some time. So when Matrix and Falcon Edge led our first round, they really helped us to actually they did the second round also, and then they really helped us continue our investments and bring more investors, right? So we had to spend a lot less time on fundraising, and we could spend a lot more time building the business. The other thing, I also see a lot of startup founders spend almost 70-80% time just raising capital, right? For us, we were really fortunate not to have to do that. And we've tried to keep a low profile also. We've mostly been in Jaipur, and that has also helped us. Keeping a lower profile has also kind of helped us, not to spend a lot of time on fundraising.
Right, right. So, congrats to Navroz. I think it's quite a compliment coming from one of his entrepreneurs. Vineet, we're out of time. So, I'm just going to leave you with one question here. And thank you for really being so candid, transparent, open. I've learned from this conversation, and I'm sure the people listening and the people who will listen to it will learn something from your best practices. No, you've been through multiple journeys, like you pointed out in your first answer, right? You did the US stint with Microsoft, then you've been back in India. Now you're on to DealShare. What advice would you like to give entrepreneurs out there? And I know we're out of time, so just one point. What do you want them to keep in mind, basis your journey?
Absolutely. I think India has a massive potential, and the massive potential is really in the middle income, lower income sector. If you really want to solve for, if you want to create a very large business in India, I would suggest go deep into India. Go to a smaller town, live there, talk to people. There are massive opportunities in every sector, whether it is fintech or payments or healthcare or education. Nothing is solved. If you think some startup has become 10, 20, 50 billion, don't worry about it. I think we are just at the beginning. So I would wish good luck to everybody.
Fantastic. Thanks, Vineet. I think this has been a great expert speak, really added value here. Thank you for your time and all the best in your journey. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adil.